Welcome. Here we are to the third Fireside chat. Tonight's going to get a little lively, and we're going to try and keep it short. We're going to talk about the three mu. And before I go any further, I'm going to ask DJ to pronounce the three mu because he does it better than any of us.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to come back and tell you what we're going to do.
Yeah.
DJ.
All right. So from the start, I was taught that everything in Japan has, a certain rhyme and rhythm to it. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's why synchronization is important. So in Japan, they call it the three mus, but it's a Muri, Muda, and Mura. Yep.
So now you've got
So how you
let me-
pronounce it really, as long as you understand it, isn't important.
I think so too.
Yeah. But in
But-
Japan, yeah.
But now you've done that and you've set that ground for us. Is it important that we speak it in that order? But more importantly, is it important that we actually implement in that order? So
Well,
what do you
that's-
think? DJ?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And the way I was informed about it and instructed on it is that Moody is like the overburdening of people and processes, but specifically it's distribution of work. It's visualizing, the balancing of how to get people together to manage the system and the variation in that system, but also in eliminating repeated activities, because you should be able to do something once and do it accurately. Okay, so that's what Moody is. And it's actually on a bell curve. That's the upper bell curve. And then when you go past midway and you go to the bottom and you start looking at the bottom, that's what's called Muda. That's the waste in it. And the seven waste. And truly, when this is all started, if you just focus on three waste, and there's a form of them called stagnation, transportation, and motion waste. If you just focus on those three, you'll do extremely well. And then the variation of both of those, if you're eliminating the stuff for the people and you're eliminating waste, then you got the Moody. That's the entire system. And you have to really focus on man, machine, methods, and materials. What do you think, Glenn?
No, I think that's exactly right. And it's interesting the way you talk about it, because as we've talked before, that isn't always the way it's introduced. And
True.
and really, it's always easier to look at the Muda side, in other words, the seven wastes, I think because they're easier to teach, and also because they have that effect on the other two when they're properly done. And to your point, if you're able to see the others, that's a gift, because I think it's easier to see the seven wastes than it is to see the other two forms of variation. And so ultimately that's kind of the direction that you go. But ultimately, I think you got it exactly right. We're really trying to get rid of all that overburdening where we're killing people. We're really trying to get it to that point then where we could start to look at the waste and then look at how the whole unevenness of the whole system works together. And we've already talked about it before. These are all forms of variation, and the good news is they're measurable. You can quantify them. And
That right there, Glenn, is talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that we can measure what.
okay, well, I think first of all, and I learned this a long time ago, was that, and again, it started with the Muda portion of it and then carried over to the other forms of variation, is that they're all motion based. And because they're motion based means you can measure them with a stopwatch. And if you measure them with a stopwatch, well, time is money. So then you can dollarize it in that order. And even when you talk about inventory, you can say, well, inventory is still the amount of time and material and everything that went into that. So it still falls into the category of motion, even though if you just look at inventory by itself, it really isn't moving. But what you did to get there was still a motion activity. So
That stagnation time is also important too, right?
that's right. That's
The
exactly right.
transportation time of it is important as well too.
That's right, and that all falls into that Muda side, right? When we talk about overproduction, right? What are we doing? It's just sitting around there, taking up space, time, and money, right?
That's right. So what the interesting point we've come to here may interest the people that are listening, from a point of view of how they were taught the three mu. If indeed they were taught the three mu,
Yeah, that's a very
a
good
lot of
point.
people
Number one.
they get
Yeah.
Muda, and that's all they get.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they read about the other two mus somewhere else and know there's another two mus, but they never actually do anything about it.
Right, right.
And I think part of that is, to Glenn's point, I believe there is a certain amount of, if you're going after pure Muda, pure waste, following the seven waste down, to some degree, Muri and Mura will take care of themselves a little bit.
Right.
And I think you see that, right? Do you agree with that, Glenn?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't completely solve it, but you're right. It starts to break it up.
Yes, he does. He does. He starts to break it up. And then I think most people, what they'll do is they'll now grab a hold of Hajunka and start
Yeah.
to go smoothing.
Yeah.
And I think they're then mixing it up with Mura.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, so-
I mean, they're both doing the same thing. You're trying to smooth. One's trying to smooth your inventory. The other one's trying to smooth the variation in your processes, right?
Right.
Mura is going after unevenness,
Right,
and
that's
most
right.
of that unevenness is in your process.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like to actually break it down in this way. If you focus on Moody, you're actually looking at people and a process. Yeah.
Yes.
So a team that's doing something, and you're looking at that team to see how you can eliminate the overburnings on that team. Yeah.
Mhm.
If you're looking at waste, it could be anywhere in the system, but if you focus it on the team, you're helping the team as well, right?
Mhm.
Whereas Muda is more looking at the entire system or the value stream or value chain and trying to figure out where is the delivery short for materials? Where are the methods taking longer because they're working in different ways? Where are the machines and the equipment being underutilized or overutilized and causing delays? And what methods can we deploy that allow us to eliminate some of that variation in the process?
Yes.
That's how I like to do that.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
Yeah. It's this one's been an interesting discussion because this is something that's come up. We probably got somewhere in the region of at least 3 hours of the three of us discussing this at different times.
Yeah.
Because it comes into our other, it pops into other discussions.
It's hard not to.
So it's kind of interesting. We've got so much information, and I'm really hoping that there's somebody out there that's paying attention this time that's saying, wow,
Yeah, you know,
the moves mean something.
Yeah, and here's what's interesting. I'm doing a EU Japan world-class manufacturing mission virtual this week.
Yep.
And when I shared that diagram of how it's actually broken down, everybody went, whoa. You know, you can see it on their face. Whoa.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, you know, when I go out and I do what is called waste hunts, I actually teach people how to go do the 3 mu hunts.
Mhm.
And I say waste is just one part of the hunt. Yeah,
That's right.
So that's sort of where we're at. And I mean, it's one of those very, very important concepts that I think people should get in real time. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think the one thing we could do here that would help people. There's a lot of people out there that's new. You know, you're drawing people into this all the time, and now there's lots of people want to educate them. Now we're down this path. If one of those people or 2 of those people are watching this, what would be our advice? What would be our advice? Because you know as well as I do, if they start to drift away and get into Mura and Muri initially, then there might be a few people that are working for not too happy because it takes a little longer to get there when you go the real way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think what we've heard tonight is that there is a real way, and you can do it that way. But you can also go after Muda right off the bat, but be very cognizant of the other 2 moves. I mean, am I right or am I wrong?
I think that's exactly right.
Yeah, I think you're spot on.
especially having had to teach this right away and then take people out there who have never experienced any of this, don't have degrees, you know, they basically understand their job and then say, hey, here's how you can help yourself. That's the easiest method in terms of getting them to get there. The key is to do what you're talking about, which you got to tie this all together. You got to say, hey, you realize you also affected these. And did you recognize that when you saw what we did here, but this is what was really happening. And again, it's that collective consciousness raising of people that says now they look at things in a different way. And as the 3 of us know, once the genie's out of the bottle, she's not getting back in, right?
Correct.
And they start to see things in a different way.
Yeah.
So I just think it's incumbent upon us as teachers when we're out there doing that is, hey, you got to understand this is only part of it. There's other things that are happening here. You need to be able to understand and recognize them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great advice. You know, I guess my insights to the audience who's listening to this would be, you know, learn to see. So go to the Gemba, study,
Mhm.
and learn to see waste first, because that's the easiest one to see. And I
That's
would
right.
say look for stagnation, look for transportation, and look for motion. If you
Yeah,
start
that's
seeing
great.
that,
Yeah.
then I think you'll be able to easily get into the Moody and
Mhm.
helping people that are being overburdened, or the processes that are being overburdened, like the equipment doing too
Mhm.
much. You'll be able to see that as well. So as a learning component, that's what I would recommend.
Sure.
I think
Sure.
Muda should be your last resort, because now you're looking at the whole system in my estimation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's another little nugget I think we could throw in there, because I've heard Glenn say this before. And maybe now I'm going to ask him about it. He'll say it's a different answer altogether.
I'll try not to disappoint you, brother.
So let's see, because just little quick nuggets that help people. So Glenn, when you go to when you go to Gemba
Yeah.
and you're teaching people how to look for waste, how
Yeah.
to see, when you
Yeah.
teach them how to see, would you advise them to go to the floor and immediately start to make notes, or would you have them do something different?
But yeah.
If you were teaching me how to see,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
went to the
Yeah.
floor,
Yeah.
is there anything you'd have me do first?
The first thing I would do is at least give you a little bit of education as to what to look for.
Yep.
And here's the difference of what is happening to you, and you've never thought about it before. The next thing is the Japanese taught us this. It's called a circle drill, where you literally put a circle out in the middle of the room or the floor or whatever it is you were looking at. And this worked really well, by the way, with guys who were in the office, because people on the floor were more excited about doing that, because like, okay, I can do this. People in the office come out there, and that's when you start getting all the, oh my God, I had no idea, what was going on. But to your point, you watch. And we always told people, the Japanese told us you got to wait 8 hours. Well, we really couldn't do that simply because of economic reasons. But certainly we would have managers stand in the circle for 2 hours anyway. And then we would tell them, I want you to look first. I want you to just see what's going on. And then I want you to start listing all the things that we talked about in terms of all the different forms of waste, the Mura, Muri, and Muda, everything we talked about. I want you to list every one of them. Let's come back with lists later. And you know what? I'll even do it with you. We'll go out there together and we can compare lists and have a good time with this to understand what's going on. I just think the key here is don't jump to conclusions.
Correct.
Watch first.
And on that note,
never the way you think it is.
Let's switch over to DJ. DJ, would you go if you're teaching somebody this for the first time? We've probably had some classroom work. We've gone through the 7 wastes.
Yeah.
The first time you throw them out on the floor, are you going to have them try and find every waste?
No, actually, what I first do is I set them up to look in 45-degree angles. You can't look at everything. That's the first thing I try to do. And I say, you start at the bottom left, you watch things on the bottom left, you come all the way to the middle, and from the middle, you go all the way to the right to the end of your 45. Then you go up to the middle side of it. And then you start at the right on a middle, and then you come to the middle of your view, and then you go over to the left, and then you go all the way up. You got to see the entire environment. You do that kind of cycle. And then I ask them, what did you see? And they write down what is most obvious to them. And then I say, now, because you haven't seen defects, because you haven't seen certain motions, I want you to look for that. I want you to do the same thing, but now look for just those kinds of wastes, for example. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that gets me to really say, wow, is that motion? Oh, wow, is that, inventory? Oh, wow, is that transportation? Yeah.
Yeah, is it rework? Yeah.
I remember being a little bit younger and being in China with a Productivity Inc. consultant by the name of Richard Niedermeyer, who passed away several years ago.
Yeah.
But he was a master of the craft.
Yeah.
He's one of the people that worked for Productivity Inc. to create the Fisher School of Business Lean certification, which was the first Lean certification in the States. And Richard had a method that I adopted from him. I wasn't taught this method initially, but he used, similar to what you said, DJ. And what he would do, he said, make a pie. Make your ends at 90 degrees, and stand. And wherever those arms are, look in between there. Look down for a while. Look at the torso area and up
Torso
for a
area.
while, and then look above
Yep.
for a while, and then move position to the next pie-shaped quadrant.
Yep.
And you know, so it kind of caps. Really, I think we're doing almost the same thing.
Yep.
Maybe a slight variation of it, and I don't think there's enough people teach people to see that way.
Mhm. Mhm.
The key is
I
though,
don't see many
we are
people doing
not,
it.
there's always this thing when you go to see, it's about people, it's about the process, and then it's about the methods.
Yes.
So if you take that into consideration, then you can see the entire system that's in front of you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't. They just hunt for that, like I said, that waste because it's the easiest thing to see. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I agree. I think we're all talking about the same kind of concepts and disciplines, and actually learning how to see when you're using the three Mus. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Good.
absolutely. And
Enjoyed the talk.
I think with that, it's been a good talk.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking forward to what it is we're going to talk about in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Because this is as enjoyable for me as it is for anybody that's listening to it, and hopefully they're getting as educated as I can get educated
Absolutely.
with you two rogues. So anyway, we're going to wrap it up.
Yep.
And I'm going to say goodbye from the East Coast of the U.S.
And goodbye from the West Coast in California.
And goodbye from Japan.
All right. Goodbye, folks.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye now.